Okay, when we are solving equations that have fractions as a coefficient, so fractions attached to a variable, we can move that fraction to the other side in two different ways. So you can look at both ways, I'll present both ways, and you can decide which one you like better. So to do it in two steps, I'm going to show you like this. We want still to get c by itself. You always want to isolate the variable. C and 3 over 4 are attached by multiplication. So to undo multiplication, we want to divide the fraction to the other side. The problem is that when you learned how to divide fractions in a previous math course, you learned that instead of dividing fractions, you multiply by the reciprocal. Okay? So there's two different methods that we can use to do this. We can either use reciprocals or we can use two steps. So to use two steps, I'm going to read this as 3 divided by 4. So if you have the opposite of divide by 4 would be to multiply by 4 to both sides. That makes this 4 and this 4 divide out, and we have a 3c and a 72 on the other side. So now this looks like a one-step equation where we want to get c by itself. 3 and c are attached by multiplication, so now I will divide. And I get 24. Okay, that is using two steps. What I was saying before is you can also multiply by the reciprocal or use the multiplicative inverse. So multiplicative inverse is a fancy way of saying two numbers that multiply to give you 1. For example, 2/3 and 3 over 2 would multiply to give you 1. 1/4 and 4 over 1 would multiply to give you 1. 4/5 and 5 over 4 would multiply to give you 1. -3 and -1/3, because -3 is really like -3 over 1, those are also multiplicative inverses. You might hear your teacher call them multiplying by the reciprocal. So to multiply by a reciprocal here, in order to get c by itself, I'm going to multiply by 4 over 3 on the left and 4 over 3 on the right. So on the left-hand side, I get just c, and on the right-hand side, you can either cross-simplify or you can multiply across the top and across the bottom and simplify and get 24. Okay, the same idea works here. I'm going to show you this with multiplying by a reciprocal. If I subtract 1 first, so your first step is always similar to what you did in two-step equations and inequalities. So you want to make sure that you get the variable with its coefficient alone before you multiply by the reciprocal. So now I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal 9 over -2 on both sides, leaving just the variable d left. And then again, over here you can try to simplify it, or you can multiply across the top and multiply across the bottom. So d is greater than or equal to -18.